The chair recognizes the honorable member for West Grand Bahama and Bimini.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, every opportunity I receive to rise in this honorable House, backed by thousands whom I represent, I consider it a privilege. I speak for a constituency and the people who continue to believe in this nation and are standing tall with the mindset that if we are to see positive growth and development, we are the ones that must take the necessary steps to make it happen in tandem with our nation leaders. As a community, our heavy reliance on the government can take us only so far in our overall lives. As a country, our major dependency on other nations can last only so long. Mr. Speaker, West Grand Bahama and Bimini is of the view that the change needed to move this country forward is not to the north, south, east, or west, but above and right in front of us. The change, Mr. Speaker, is here on our shores, in our schools, in our homes, and on our jobs. Mr. Speaker, the everyday Bahamian, the one that labors, the one that buys goods and services, the one that creates, the one that builds. These are the people who will determine whether this nation of ours grows positively or diminishes quickly. Blue-collar workers is the term given. Grassroots is another. No matter the description, Mr. Speaker, they are the backbone of this country, and their needs are becoming greater and their voices louder. We owe it to each and every one of them to hear their cries and to govern right, even if it means that we are to be the sacrifice in order that our children may reap the rewards. Mr. Speaker, the time is now for us all, leaders and citizens, to strengthen our efforts in achieving a better Bahamas by ensuring patriotism over politics and compassion over controversy. West Grand Bahama and Bimini has no hesitation in supporting the 2019-2020 budget as communicated by Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, the Honorable K. Peter Turnquist. We support this government's efforts to ensure fiscal responsibility, and we welcome the strategy in achieving such. We are satisfied with the decision to offer everyday Bahamians through financial prudence the ability to secure services and benefits that will assist with daily living. West Grand Bahama and Bimini believes that when it is all said and done, this budget will be referred to as one in which the great turnaround for our Bahamaland started. Mr. Speaker, we are indeed grateful for a free national movement government, still the people's choice. West Grand Bahama and Bimini knows it. Bahamians are aware of it. And the opposition, no matter how hard they try, can't deny that this very same country, which experienced significant challenges with its fiscal management and governance just 2 years ago, is now headed in the right direction. I am of the view, Mr. Speaker, that publicly the members of the opposite rant and rave, but privately they are rejoicing. Mr. Speaker, the 2019-2020 budget, no doubt, is the beginning to an end of mismanagement of the people's money. As previously communicated, this very same budget will assist with entrepreneurial training, advanced education. It will improve the ease of doing business while supporting and making available capital for micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. This budget is something that every citizen of this country who has been closely monitoring its governance since 2017 should be proud of. Mr. Speaker, West Grand Bahama and Bimini does not subscribe to what is being said about this administration placing numbers over people. We are not about numbers, but rather utilizing figures to ensure a prosperous and profitable future. Mr. Speaker, we are unable to show you the money unless we show you the numbers. It's called transparency and accountability. Tourism is better with historic visitor arrivals. Agriculture and fisheries is expanding like never before. Government finances are better managed and the deficit is down. Bills are being paid to those who provided services and were left holding the bag by a government that failed to meet its obligations. Education is better and school children are being equipped with the latest in technology and higher learning at very little or no cost at all. Better health care is on the rise with major upgrades to facilities and services throughout this nation like never before. Infrastructural developments are taking place consistently and the power supply is receiving long-awaited attention. Crime is down and people are feeling safer. Social benefits are more. However, many are deciding to empower themselves instead. Investors are knocking on our doors with a newfound trust in this country's governance. The list, Mr. Speaker, can go on, but I think it suffice to say that as we move to the future, we are headed in the right direction. We must stay the course. Mr. Speaker, West Grand Bahama and Bimini continues to thank God for his many blessings. We are appreciative of this government's efforts in building a better country. We believe in the leadership of Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis and his cabinet, and we are eager to contribute to the overall success of this nation. Mr. Speaker, as the Parliamentary Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister, with responsibility for information and communications and that of land and surveys, I must admit that notwithstanding successes in some areas, we are just now touching the surface and there remains major work to be done in both of these areas. Are the teams up to the task? I am happy to say, Mr. Speaker, that they are, and I believe that as a result of work now underway, we will achieve goals set by this government in the assigned sectors. I turn my attention to land and surveys, Mr. Speaker. No land is an island, and if we are to see a better country, it will take every community to do its part. For a long time, Mr. Speaker, our very own citizens have felt as though they are second in their country. The tide, however, is shifting, and one such area in which we will demonstrate our commitment to securing the best possible future for our citizens, including our youth, is by ensuring land ownership. Land, capital, and infrastructure are three areas that contribute to the wealth of an individual and a community. And I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that the cries of Bahamians in this area have not fallen on deaf ears. Currently at the Land and Survey Department is a team dedicated to carrying out this government's mandate, which calls for land reform. Land and Surveys, Mr. Speaker, is transitioning into a modernized entity capable of correcting the challenges of the past while accommodating customers by effectively managing the demands of the future. I wish to state, Mr. Speaker, that the long-standing issue of having a backlog of land applications will be no more. As we press into the digital era, major renovations are about to come on stream at our current location, and the implementation of a website for all matters related to land and survey just as well. Our team aims to provide better customer service, but most importantly, ensure that Bahamians become the primary owners of this rock called the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, the member for Kalani and Minister for Land and Surveys, Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, in his communication will outline specific plans regarding land in this country. It is something, Mr. Speaker, with which West Grand Bahama and Bimini believes Bahamians from Managua in the south to Abaco in the north will welcome with open arms. Mr. Speaker, the issue of land has caused much tension in this country, and under this F&M administration, our goal is to simply ensure that in its distribution, right is done by and for all, Mr. Speaker. I turn my attention to the Bahamas Telecommunications Company. BTC is in the process of winning back its loyal customers. and continue to upgrade and develop its infrastructure to meet the demands of its valuable clients. Over the past few years, BTC has been challenged with the introduction of a new competitor within the telecommunications market. As with the introduction of new entrants within this space, incumbent operators usually lose market share, and in the case of BTC, we have been challenged with such existence, particularly in the provision of mobile services. Mr. Speaker, BTC, however, is bouncing back and has seen improvement in its service provisioning to its valuable customers. BTC is seeking to train and retrain its staff to properly equip them for the high demands being initiated by customers at this time. Training programs are ongoing for both BTC employees and its partners. Upgrades and installation of new equipment to accommodate high data speeds are currently taking place. The introduction of fiber to the home is being realized and has now been installed within the eastern end of the island of New Providence. And now, Mr. Speaker, focus is on the central area of New Providence and will continue until the entire island is upgraded. And might I add, Mr. Speaker, the same can be said of West Grand Bahama, having been the first community to undergo such in the nation's second city. Mr. Speaker, it is the intent of BTC to provide fiber to the home to all households, totally retiring copper underground and overhead cable connections. Our mean times for installation and repairs has been reduced tremendously, with the goal moving forward being to reduce times for installation and repairs within 24 to 48 hours. Mr. Speaker, projected development plans for BTC are as follows. New mobile sites to be constructed along with expansion of 29 existing cell sites within New Providence, Exuma, and Grand Bahama. Do expect these installations to be completed by the end of the year. We'll get to you. BTC, gotta start somewhere. BTC is upgrading its broadband capabilities with minimum maximum speeds of 25 megabytes to 75 at this moment. BTC is targeting the islands of New Providence, Exuma, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, Long Island, Abaco, Rumkey, and San Salvador to provide these high-speed services. Flow TV improvements. Andres, we'll get to you. Flow TV improvements have been realized and is presently equipped to accommodate hospitality TV suite for small and large hotels, and of course, Mr. Speaker, for the single and multiple dwelling homes. Target islands are New Providence, Grand Bahama, Eleuthera, Long Island, Abaco, Rumkey, San Salvador, Cat Island, Bimini, Crooked Island, and Anagua. Voice network, Mr. Speaker, improvements are ongoing to upgrade fixed voice switching networks while retiring depreciated technologies. This is being done for the entire Bahamas, that's Andros included.
Thank you.
BTC has signed a 5-year contract with the Ministry of Education to provide fiber optic services to 127 schools throughout the Bahamas. Much focus will be done on improving and upgrading Family Island central offices and all of their transmission equipment. Mr. Speaker, BTC is seeking to improve its financial position by reducing its operational expenses versus its revenue to a reasonable percentage rate of under 50%. BTC has recently completed its negotiations with the Bahamas Communications and Public Officers Union and is now engaged with the Bahamas Communications Public Management Union to complete a contractual deal. It is hoped that negotiations for this deal will be completed very soon. Mr. Speaker, the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas is committed to its mandate settled by this free national movement government to ensure that it becomes a public service broadcaster with news, information, and programming that is relevant to the well-being of our country and its people. The board and management continue their efforts to ensure that the staff and general public understand and are fully aware of the role that ZNS plays for this country, especially amidst rampant news and information in which fake news has taken on an identity of its own and citizen journalism in some instances irresponsibly carried out. Public service broadcasting, Mr. Speaker, will mean that the BCB will instead have to rely on the generous donations of foundations, businesses, and pledges from members of the public. And while government intervention can still take place, our reliance on funding from such will not be our primary source of revenue. Public service broadcasting, Mr. Speaker, will result in programs that are of a national interest, covering areas such as health, education, the arts, culture, commerce, just to name a few. Mr. Speaker, the corporation is engaged in shifting its organizational culture when nothing less than productivity and professionalism is demonstrated, while simultaneously strengthening its operational structure by expanding training and seeking new revenue initiatives. Mr. Speaker, the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas continues to inform, educate, and entertain our citizens who are widespread and depend on our services to stay abreast of national issues. Today, Mr. Speaker, there remains no other news source in this country that covers the Bahamas better than ZNS. With this, Mr. Speaker, we believe that our national station should never be treated as an afterthought. But given the digital tools and human resources necessary to disseminate news and information instantaneously. Presently, Mr. Speaker, the corporation is putting in place additional initiatives to strengthen ZNS's programming on radio and television so as to satisfy its audience with new locally produced programs and a variety of quality international programs. Mr. Speaker, in 2012, the corporation's headquarters, based right here in New Providence, was upgraded to a digital format, and I noted in my first address in 2017 to this August body that we must turn our attention immediately to the upgrading of the Freeport office, Northern Service, to be on par with ZNS Nassau. Well, Mr. Speaker, I am happy to report that the board and management have done just that at a cost of some $575,000, and in short order, we will be launching the Northern Station to the digital television platform. Mr. Speaker, during the first and second quarters of this year, much of our attention at the BCB was turned to the improving the space and delivery of new equipment also in the Northern Service office. Grand Bahamas' time has come. With these changes, the corporation will no longer have one foot in the digital world and the other in the analog sector. We will be fully digital in both entities of the Broadcasting Corporation of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, over the last several months, the board and management of the BCB experienced several outages due to electrical interruptions to its electrical system, which was installed more than 50 years ago when ZNS first began transmitting. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to report that at a cost of some $111,000, we have upgraded by replacing the outdated electrical system at headquarters, inclusive of a new 1200 AMPS, that's something in electrical term, right? Yes. Amps, they call it amps, Mr. Yes. Speaker. Main electrical service with an automatic transfer switch. I'm communications, I don't know if I'm electrical. Transfer switch. Mr. Speaker, after years of wear and tear and hurricane damage, general repairs to the television building at headquarters are completed, and the repairs to the roof of the radio department continues with an anticipated completion date before the end of the fourth quarter of this year. Mr. Speaker, the BCB's effort to become more self-reliant and financially prudent has led us to take a closer look at our expenditures and revenue, keeping in mind that we are to move in the direction which will result in a financially stable entity. Currently, there are several cost-cutting measures that management is reviewing in an effort to reduce its operating costs, such as the elimination of the satellite uplink Earth station, which carries a monthly cost of some $22,000 and is paid to a U.S.-based company. Mr. Speaker, our intent is to eliminate that hefty cost by utilizing a new and more innovative approach, engaging business right here at home. Mr. Speaker, on another note, Cable Bahamas, through non-contentious dialogue and a common goal of providing the best for viewers throughout this country, was asked in 2018 to ensure that all the family islands that were not receiving ZNS did. I am happy to report that all the outstanding family islands are now receiving ZNS as promised. Mr. Speaker, the updating of equipment has also been a focus of the past year, and as technology quickly changes, management will take measures to better the delivery of the product to the Bahamian people. The future for ZNS remains connecting the people of this nation, and technology continues to push the method by which we can. ZNS remains in the forefront of ensuring this and will strengthen its ambitions to continue with trailblazing initiatives. The year 2018-2019, Mr. Speaker, has been about expanding our programming and highlighting our varied stories. The 13 on TV 13 documentary series began in an effort to highlight the many contributions of the people of this country, and we will continue to make this a signature program on ZNS. For the first time in the history of broadcast of the BCB, the morning show Morning Edition was launched in 2018 with live coverage of current affairs and news. Mr. Speaker, we will continue with this effort to strengthen the AM television hours with additional programs geared at meeting the demands of our viewers. Mr. Speaker, through independent producers, we have attracted such programs as A Closer Look with veteran broadcaster Mr. Anthony Newbold, which highlights the ins and outs of government business from individuals at the helm of the various ministries. Mr. Speaker, these are just a few of a variety of new programs for both television and radio now being broadcast, and it's just the beginning. Mr. Speaker, as management increases its drive to bring additional revenue and highlight those other important stories, we are confident that it will be well-rounded, catering to every sector of the population, including the millennials and youth, with our new social media platform, which was revamped in late 2018. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, the board and management also intends to find beneficial ways to grow BCB's revenue with an increased online presence. Mr. Speaker, the BCB continues to be in direct competition with numerous radio and television stations in the Bahamas. Stations that are able can literally give away their inventory of airtime, as it is not their primary source of revenue generation. Despite this competition viewed as unfair, ZNS continues to hold its own with the competition for limited sales dollars. As a broadcast and communications institution, we are not growing as fast as we would like, as the subject of financial restrictions place great limitations on our ability to acquire quality local and international programming and technology of the day. Financially, we project revenues to year-end June 2019 in the region of $4.3 million. This compares unfavorably with revenues in 2017 of $5.4 million and 2018 of $4.7 million, a decrease of about 8.5%. It should be noted again that 2017 was an election year, which made for more revenue generation from various political parties. We at ZNS continue to strive to reduce overall expenses without sacrificing jobs or services to the public, a daunting task, but one we have accepted. Overall, we project expenses for 2019 year-end to top out at $13.4 million. It is the BCB's stated objective to reduce overall expenses by a minimum of 5% year over year, which we began in 2018, in line with our government's fiscal responsibility platform. However, as a state-owned entity, there are legacy debts concerns that must be resolved to assist management in furthering its fiscal balance and adhering to its outstanding obligations as an SOE. We recognize that these are difficult times, and this administration has had to make hard and serious choices. Despite these choices, Mr. Speaker, we will not sacrifice quality and will continue to strive to identify new and creative revenue streams and find ways to meaningfully introduce cost reduction wherever possible. Mr. Speaker, the use of new technology is forcing media professionals to reinvent and upgrade their skills and institutions to be competitive and relevant. The Broadcasting Corporation intends to provide the equipment and training to remain on the cutting edge and deliver on its mandate for all the people of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, the BCB has given birth to every television and radio station in this country and looks forward to reinventing itself in the coming months. It is now time for ZNS to be allowed to fulfill its principal role, and the Broadcasting Act must be amended to ensure that the professionals at ZNS work in the interest of the Bahamian people. We are calling on members of the Cabinet to assist us in this vein. No longer can the Act remain as is. ZNS needs to become a public service broadcaster in law. After all, it is the people's station. Turning our attention to Bahamas Information Services, Mr. Speaker. Over the past 2 years and under the leadership of this Free National Movement government, Bahamas Information Services has experienced a metamorphosis in its development and dissemination of government press releases, articles, captions, and notices, as well as audio-video content to the local press media agencies, and to members of the general public. BIS, under the leadership of its Director General, has successfully been transformed into a more efficient, productive, and robust multimedia agency within the government of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, let me use this opportunity to sensitize the nation that BIS, by an act of this very Parliament, is the official public relations agency and production facilities for the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And I am extremely proud of the hard work of the men and women who make up the creative and line staff of this entity. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to share just a few of the new and exciting initiatives that have been successfully introduced and accomplished by Bahamas Information Services over the past 12 months. BIS has introduced a weekly television infomercial entitled BIS Update. This program, which is usually no more than 5 minutes in length, showcases key achievements of the government on a weekly basis. BIS Update is distributed to thousands via e-blast, showcased on various social media platforms, and is aired weekly on the ZNS television network. BIS has also introduced BIS Daily Radio Recap, which is a daily radio program that highlights and promotes what the government has achieved and accomplished on a daily basis. This program, which is no more than 90 seconds in length, is distributed daily to thousands of Bahamians, also via email blast, WhatsApp, social media, and is now currently heard on a number of private radio stations here in New Providence, and as well on some of our family of islands, including Anagua, Abaco, Grand Bahama, and several others. BIS has also taped, edited, and successfully distributed for airplay to various local television and radio stations all 3 of the national reports delivered by our Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis, from January to May of this year. Some of the future projects in the pipeline at BIS include BIS Weekly, an electronic newsletter that features articles written by our team of talented information officers, as well as dynamic photographs captured by our team of professional photographers. BIS Weekly TV. This will be a weekly 30-minute television program designed to promote the major initiatives, projects, and accomplishments of this government. This program is scheduled to be aired weekly on ZNS TV 13. BIS is also in the process of rebranding and will host the major launch of its new look and design to the general public within the coming months. This as we push towards being housed in a new office space that will meet the demands of the job at hand. Mr. Speaker, we are extremely excited about the future of BIS as we continue in our pursuit to educate, inform, and enlighten the people of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Mr. Speaker, I now turn my attention to that of my constituency. This member is satisfied of what is transpiring in the constituency of West Grand Bahama and Bimini. While we are disappointed, Mr. Speaker, that we cannot report of any major infrastructural developments today, Mr. Speaker, we are optimistic that this year's budget will be kind to us, having already appealed for much-needed seawalls in both Bimini and West End for starters. There remains, Mr. Speaker, a great need for our roads to be repaired and properly lit, particularly in West End, Grand Bahama, where many have lost their lives in traffic accidents. This alarm, Mr. Speaker, has been sounded year after year after year. The roads of West End in particular are just too dark. We need our streets to be properly lit. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, due to a lack of maintenance of our roadsides, the root of trees such as Casuarina pine continue to lift the surface, making it unbalanced and dangerous for motorists. Mr. Speaker, West Grand Bahama is the government's community, and it is in need of government attention. Mr. Speaker, the well-being of the elderly and youth of my area is something that I am passionate about, and thus my concern for these sectors. I must commend persons of the urban renewal offices in both Bimini and West Grand Bahama who have been doing an exceptional job and whom I have partnered with on numerous occasions to assist with programs catering to these individuals. My concern, however, Mr. Speaker, is that the youth of our area continues to be disenfranchised. We therefore appeal for a state-of-the-art multi-purpose center and sporting facility for both Bimini and West Grand Bahama. Our community continues to create world-class athletes with very little resources. Can you imagine what will come with this investment in our youth? The youth of West Grand Bahama and Bimini, Mr. Speaker, are calling for more focused attention from the government. Mr. Speaker, there is much work to be done. West Grand Bahama and Bimini does not wish to remain on the outside looking in. Having proven storm after storm, government after government, budget after budget, that we are a people who continue to hold our own. The strong, however, Mr. Speaker, can become weary and discouraged. Mr. Speaker, let me for a moment speak to the realities of my constituency and its people, whom I would not trade for the world. People
You'll be all right.
Thank you. People. Yeah. People that I will fight for with every breath in my body. Thank you. As long as the good Lord allows me. My fight, Mr. Speaker, is not confined to this House. And whether I am in or out, my voice will speak. I'm only human, right? Confined to this House, and whether I am in or out, this voice will speak and these hands will work for their benefit. God, Marvin. Thank you. Mr. Speaker, let's begin with West Grand Bahama. The reality is successive governments have not done enough. To give us that push. I prefer my head today. To give us that push that we need to get over this hump that has plagued us for years. That hump, Mr. Speaker, is a lack of belief that we are able to make a difference in the economic stability of our island. Mr. Speaker, we are the mom and the pop stores. We are the laborers that cause for monies to be made in big business. We are the youth. Okay. We are the youth that work with barely nothing but capture international headlines. We are the forgotten ones. As you would have heard in this House from other Family Island representatives, we are often overlooked, not because we can't, but because we are far away. Mr. Speaker, I love New Providence. It represents this country well, and I would not ask for any focus to be taken away. The reality is, however, that it's overpopulated, and what better way is there to assist in that depopulation other than giving those who ran here for opportunities a reason to return to their homes. The Family Islands need more focus. It is time to bring them on stream. West Grand Bahama, Mr. Speaker, is the government's child, and we are in need of our parents' attention. I reiterate, Mr. Speaker, believe in us enough by providing us with seawalls, particularly in West End, having been hit hurricane after hurricane. Believe in us enough to reconstruct our government dock in order to bring further economic activity. Believe in us enough to pave our roads, one of which is just a straight highway. Believe in us enough to establish a major multi-purpose youth and sporting facility so that our children may sharpen their skills and talents. Believe in us enough to delay no further unnecessary action. This is all we ask at the moment, Mr. Speaker. We will do the rest. Mr. Speaker, please don't get me wrong. I am pleased to report that in spite of it all, this member, along with a group of hard-working individuals consisting of those in our constituency, urban renewal, the administrator and local government offices, the schools of both West Grand Bahama and Bimini are making significant strides in meeting the needs of the people of our area. We are about the people's business. And while we continue to urge the powers that be of the various ministries to help by doing their part in helping build our area, we will push forward, realizing that what is done with little is done with much. I therefore report, Mr. Speaker, that during the year 2018-2019, we have done as much as we could on the ground. We witnessed some 50-plus individuals graduate from the Bahama Host Program in West Grand Bahama and more than 100 in Bimini. We introduced for the first time in partnership with UNEXO the open water diving certification course for individuals ages 18 to 50, with the first class having successfully completed the course. This, Mr. Speaker, we are proud to say, came prior to Agriculture and Fisheries launching their initiative, which we will certainly encourage our constituents to now take advantage of. I therefore call on all those interested in this type program to visit the National Training Agency to make applications to the program as mentioned by Minister Michael Pintard. In West Grand Bahama, Mr. Speaker, we are thankful for work which continues to be carried out at the administrative complex in Pinedale, 8 Mile Rock, and the junior high school in Holmes Rock. We look forward to the earliest completion of both, as our community remains hopeful of the job opportunities that will come as a result. We are also happy to report that the completion of the administrative complex, which will house the various government departments in Bimini, is scheduled for November of this year, as we also eye renovations to the current building, which houses the administrator for the island and police. On that note, Mr. Speaker, I wish to point out that after years and years of calling for road traffic office in Bimini, work is currently being carried out for this department, with completion expected in just a matter of weeks. This means, Mr. Speaker, that persons from Bimini will no longer have to travel to Nassau or Freeport and pay hundreds of dollars just to get their license, which costs less. Knowing the importance of a clean environment and its impact on the economy, Mr. Speaker, I am happy to report that the makeshift West End dump site, which plagued residents and visitors alike in approaching that community, has been cleaned up after years of being allowed to build. We are thankful to the partnership of the Ministry of Grand Bahama and Environmental Health, Mr. Speaker, in this initiative. Mr. Speaker, I am happy to report that through our License to Succeed program within the past year alone, we have assisted 70-plus persons in ensuring that they are legitimately conducting business by taking them through the necessary steps to receive their business license. Of that number, Mr. Speaker, some 95% are home-based businesses. Mr. Speaker, the West Grand Bahama and Bimini constituency is that train that keeps chugging away. And while we realize that the funds are just not there as we wish in order that we may receive more, we are optimistic of the strength we are gaining, slowly but surely, with Bimini leading the way, particularly in the tourism sector. We must take our hats off, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister of Tourism and his team for the work they are doing. The arrival of Virgin Cruises is in April of 2020, bringing with it 2,700 passengers as it docks 3 times every 2 weeks, which will amount to some 78 stops per year. Undoubtedly, there will be jobs created. Resorts World Bimini, for starters, is building a beach club to cater to passengers. These passengers, however, will not be limited to just that property and will also wish to take in the sights and sounds of Bimini in its entirety. I therefore appeal to Biminites firstly, but Bahamians in general, to take advantage of empowerment opportunities by creating tours and excursions and experiences in general that will wow the visitors and bring economic stability for themselves. This investment into Bimini's economy, Mr. Speaker, will mean some 200,000 passengers annually to the island. Mr. Speaker, we are going to need more space. Mr. Speaker, we continue to do much in both West Grand Bahama and Bimini. I am happy to say that we are currently working with the Administrative and Local Government Office and the newly established or re-established Bimini Sports Council, where we are going to be catering to our youth of the area, and repairs have already begun at the baseball field. As you know, Mr. Speaker, there's no baseball like Bimini baseball. Mr. Speaker.
My cousin.
Mr. Speaker, one of our most significant accomplishments. Mr. Speaker, we are proud of all that our schools are doing in West Grand Bahama and Bimini, and we take our hats off to all of the education officials that continue to look out for the best interest of our students. One of our most significant accomplishments that we wish to recognize, Mr. Speaker, comes from the District of Bimini at the Louise McDonald High School. Under the leadership of Principal Demetrius Wildgoose and a group of hard-working teachers, the 2018-2019 academic year began with the school celebrating an increase in academic achievement from the previous year. Mr. Speaker, the number of passes in the BJC exams at Louise McDonald High School was only at 28% in 2017. And that, Mr. Speaker, increased to 49% by 2018. Similarly, the BJCSE results improved from 45% to 68%. Also during the same period, Mr. Speaker, students earning a 2.0 GPA and above increased from 55% to 73%. These achievements, Mr. Speaker, resulted in the Ministry of Education Examination and Assessment Division awarding the Louise McDonald High School the Minister's Award for Most Improved Performance in Government Schools in the 2018 BJC examination, Category B, in February of this year. Additionally, during the Christmas term 2018, 100% of the senior school, 10, 11, and 12th grade, received GPAs of 2.0 and above. Mr. Speaker. One. Mr. Speaker, school officials are reporting that from their most recent progress reports, the results of this year will surpass last year's, and that the school is trending in the right direction. Mr. Speaker, I am indeed proud of the West Grand Bahama and Bimini constituency and proud of the people. Mr. Speaker, famed civil rights activist Malcolm X once said, "If you have no critics, you will likely have no success." Mr. Speaker, this F&M administration has had criticism lobbied against us from the start. Practically every move we have made thus far has been questioned, and we hear the criticisms loud and clear, but there is much to be achieved with steady hands and a focused mindset. Mr. Speaker, we have that in the form of this nation's leader, the Most Honorable Dr. Hubert Minnis and his cabinet. Steady we go in spite of it all, Mr. Speaker. We are being guided in the right direction. We won't stop. We can't stop. Join us now as we take this governance to another level. I thank God, my family, my constituents, my colleagues, especially my golden ministers, I call them, the various government agencies, and my partners for all that has been done thus far to assist this member in her work for the people. Our work will not be in vain. West Grand Bahama and Bimini supports this budget.
Thank you, Honorable Member. As many, the Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
to speak.
when we return. Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Bamboo Town.
Yeah, place was one member. You're in the wrong place.
Thank you, sir. But Mr. Speaker, the rules insist that we be at our spot. Mr. Speaker, I do now move that the House suspends until 3 p.m. for the luncheon break. Mr. Speaker, I second that.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the business of this House suspends until 3 p.m. this afternoon. As many members are in favor, will remain seated. Those who oppose will stand. The business of this House stands suspended until 3 p.m. this afternoon.
All right.